Hello friends, welcome to Daring Marana YouTube channel. Today we will be discussing about leak detection in shell and tube type heat exchanger. So what are the leak detection in a shell and tube type heat exchanger? Okay, the tubes are replaced by heat exchanger provided that there is a complete tube failure. Okay, here we are considering is the tube are replaced by heat exchanger provided that there is a complete tube failure. If the tube is found leaking, then the tube is to be plugged. If there is a leakage in the shell and tube exchanger, then the tube need to be plugged. However, the procedure for leakage detection we are discussing here, the leakage detection in shell and tube type cooler. So, here the working pressure in case of jacket water system or lubricating oil system are usually of higher pressure than seawater system. We need to understand that the working pressure in the case of jacket water system or lubricating system is usually higher than seawater system. If the leakage takes place in jacket cooling water side of lubricating oil, okay, here means the tubes are replaced by heat exchanger provided that there is a complete tube failure. If the tube is found leaking or the tube is found plugged, then the procedure of leakage we are discussing below. Here we are discussing about leakage detection in a shell and tube type cooler. The working pressure in case of jacket water system or lubricating oil system is usually of higher pressure than the seawater system. That means working pressure in case of jacket water system or cooling system or lubricating system is usually higher than that of seawater cooling system. If the leakage takes place in the jacket cooling system or lubricating oil, then the pressure will be very high. So we have to ensure that end covers are removed from the seawater box set and secure the tube stack by dog clamp arrangement. The tube stack should not be disturbed when the shear is under pressure. We have to ensure that end covers are removed from the seawater box set. We have to first ensure that end covers are removed from the seawater box set and secure the tube stack by a dog clamp arrangement. Secure the tube stack by a dog clamp arrangement. Stack should not be disturbed when the shell is under pressure, and tube stack should not be disturbed under shell is under pressure. Okay, and to clean the seawater side of cooler, and we have to clean the seawater side of the cooler. Start the freshwater cooling pump or lubricating oil pump. We have to start the freshwater cooling pump or lubricating oil pump. Let the fluid circulate through the cooler spaces on the outside of tube, and we have to let the fluid circulate through the cooler space or outside of the tube. Leakage within the tube or at the junction of the tube plate will show up as liquid trickling. So leakage inside the tube or at the junction of tube will show a liquid trickling. So identify the tube which is leaking. It is a time consuming procedure, so we have to be patient. So means here what we do is we will ensure the end covers are removed by the seawater box set and secure the tube stack by a dog clamp arrangement, and we have to ensure that the tube stack should not be disturbed when the shell is under pressure, and clean the seawater side of the cooler. Start freshwater cooling pump or lubricating oil pump. Let the fluid circulate through the cooler spaces on the outside of the tube. Leakage within the tubes or at the junction of the tube will show a liquid trickling. Identify the tube which is leaking. It is a time consuming process, so we have to be patient. So okay, this is what the process of basics. So there are different methods type to measure the leakage in a shell and tube type heat exchanger. So what the best procedure is almost same. Here means we have to ensure that end covers are removed from the seawater box set and secure the tube stack by dog clamp arrangement. Then you have to ensure that this tube stack should not be disturbed when shell is under pressure. Clean the seawater side of the cooler. Start freshwater cooling pump or lubricating oil pump. Let the fluid circulate through the cooler space on the outside of the tube. Leakage within the tubes or at the junction of tube will show as liquid trickling. Identify the tube which is leaking. It is a time consuming process, so we have to be patient. Then fluorescent halo test means small leaks are extremely difficult to detect, especially the time availability is very less. So it will be difficult to get seawater cooling space dried out. So if the leakage is small and time availability is less, we can use the fluorescent halo test. Okay, means small leaks are extremely difficult to detect, especially time availability is very less. Then it will be difficult to get seawater cooling space dried out. So if the leakage is small and time availability is less, we can use the fluorescent halo test. Here, small amount of fluorescent sodium crystal is dissolved in water with spaces surrounding the tubes. The tube plates are then viewed under a source of ultraviolet light. Even when a small leakage is sharply visible as a fluorescent halo. Okay. Here what we are doing is small amount of fluorescent sodium crystal is dissolved in water within space surrounding the tubes. The tube plates are then viewed under a source of ultraviolet light. Even a small leakage is sharply visible as a fluorescent halo. Okay. Fluorescent halo test means small leaks are very difficult to detect, especially the time availability is less. So it will be difficult to get seawater cooling space dried out. If the leakage is small and time availability is less, then we can use this fluorescent halo test. So here what we do is a small amount of fluorescent sodium crystal is dissolved in water with spaces surrounding the tube. The tube plates are then viewed under a source of ultraviolet light. Even a small leakage is sharply visible as a fluorescent halo. Soap bubble test means if the time availability is high and if the heat exchanger cannot be isolated, then we can use the soap bubble test. Ensure the end covers are removed from the seawater box. We have to ensure that end covers are removed from the seawater box. Isolate the entire cooler and pressurize shell side with air. Isolate the entire cooler and pressurize the shell side with air. Use soap solution and apply the same at the tube end. Use the soap solution, apply the same at the tube ends. A bubble formation will indicate the leaking of tube. A bubble formation will indicate the leak indication. Okay, this is the oldest method. Soap bubble method means if this is one of the oldest method and simple method. If the time availability is high, then the heat exchanger can be isolated. Then we have to ensure that the covers are removed from the seawater box side. Isolate the entire cold and pressurize the shell side from the air with air and use soap solution and apply the same at the tube ends. Okay, bubble formation will indicate the leaking tube. After finding the leak, plug in the tube. Once the leak is detected, measure the inside diameter of the tube and find the suitable plug for plugging. Okay, once we find the leakage, so we have to find the inside diameter of the tube and find the suitable plug for the plugging. For plugging, usually the leaky tubes, the plugs will be made of brass as material for tube or plastic are being used either end of leaky tube. We can use brass or we can use plastic. Then plug should be driven securely so as to isolate. So plugs we are using should be driven very securely so that it should be isolated completely and carry out leak test again to confirm that leak is arrested. Okay, plug in the tube means once the leak is detected, you have to measure the inside diameter of the tube to find the suitable plugs the plugging. For plugging the leaky tubes, plugs made of brass or plastic are being used in either end of the leaky tube. Plug should be driven securely so as to isolate it completely and we have to carry out leak test again to confirm that leak arrested. Thank you. So these are the how to test leaking of a shell and tube type heat exchanger.